and second time's the charm here, I think, as far as being able to figure this out. But we are live here. I want to thank our sponsors for our live stream, People's Bank and Trust, where we put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. You always do better at Landmark. Our apologies right off the bat. We are having some video issues with our live stream, so we apologize for that. But that doesn't take away the special that we have here, as we have our guest today, University of Illinois Extension Officer Lisa Peterson. Lisa, thank you so much for being on the show. It's good to talk to you again.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Lisa and I talk probably about once every year, and it's one of my, I always look forward to it.
Oh.
But Lisa being on the show today, and I said it already, but thanks so much, Lisa, for being on the show today. We've got some great stuff coming up with the U of I Extension Office. I know one of the events that you're talking about was something having to do with diabetes. Talk a little bit about that event that we have.
Yes, I'm very excited about this. We've been doing monthly classes with Pana Community Hospital and Live Well Pana, which is their wellness center. And we'll actually be doing one on August 14th on cooking with diabetes, focused on meal planning. So this is for anybody who has diabetes, pre-diabetes. This is also great for any caregivers if you have a family member who has diabetes. For those who have attended my classes in Pana, they are in the basement of the hospital. You go to the wellness center and they will happily direct you to where you're going. But there's kind of two components to this. We'll do the education. We'll talk about meal planning. So a lot of times when you're diagnosed, you don't know what you should be eating, what you shouldn't. So we walk through kind of different ways to approach diabetes with how we eat. And then one of the big parts of my classes is the cooking side. So usually we'll do 2 or 3 recipes, and you work with small groups, so maybe 2 or 3 other people, and you make the recipe, and then you're going to do some taste testing. So this class is really good for, again, anybody who's had diabetes for 20 years, new to diabetes, has a family member who's living with it. We'll talk a little bit about carb counting, carbohydrate counting. We'll get into the plate method, and we'll talk about the Mediterranean diet, because, again, there's no one size fits all. So we'll kind of discuss different ways to eat, and you'll get recipes as well, and hopefully get to talk to other people who are also going through the same things you are.
And why, I guess for somebody who may not know, why are there such differences between what you're allowed to eat with diabetes as opposed to what somebody that doesn't have diabetes can have?
Sure. So somebody without diabetes, what happens is their pancreas works correctly. They are getting insulin that helps manage their blood glucose levels. Somebody who has diabetes, there's different types of it. But either they're not producing any insulin, so all that sugar, that glucose in their body is sitting there, and that does damage to our organs, or there is not able to be used correctly, or they're not getting enough insulin in. So we do walk through kind of the different types as well, just kind of getting into it. We do focus a little bit more on this class on the type 2, because that's a little bit more common. That's somebody who they produce insulin, but either the body doesn't know what to do with it. These are the people who oftentimes are on either medications or things like that, not necessarily injections, but we will get into both sides of it. We really focus on the plate method, which is it's an easier way to understand eating with diabetes. It talks more about what's on your plate. It's less about counting carbohydrates. It's more about how do I make sure half my plate is those non-starchy vegetables.
Yeah, that's a relatively new thing from the food from those guys that come up with that stuff, the FDA, because it used to be the pyramid.
Yes,
right? It used to be the
USDA.
Food pyramid. USDA. That's what I knew it was one of those DA things, but but they've switched over. I know they've switched over recently from the pyramid to my plate, and making sure that if I remember right, and I apologize, colors, right? It's colors. Making
a
sure
little bit. It's more. It's not necessarily colors, but it's looking at. My plate is really nice because the pyramid, you had no idea what your plate should look like. The My Plate, which is basically a plate, and it tells you what half your plate should be fruits and vegetables. The plate method with diabetes is a little different. It's still that same kind of concept, except we focus on making half your plate non-starchy vegetables.
Awesome.
So it's a little bit, again, looking at the calorie side, looking at what's not going to raise your blood glucose quickly, and keeping you a little bit more under control. We will walk through we always get the question, well, what is a non-starchy vegetable? So we'll walk through that in this class as well. Hopefully you'll get some answers in this class too. When, again, you've been diagnosed or you've had it, you're like, I have no idea how to manage this with what I eat. And that's what we're here for with Extension, to provide education.
Especially when you're so used to a certain way of eating and you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, all right, you've got, type 2 diabetes and
Yeah.
They walk out.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah, it's those small
man,
tweaks,
yeah.
and that's people get really overwhelmed when they're first diagnosed. I grew up with it. My sister is a type 1 diabetic, and that actually is what led me into my field in nutrition, was because I went with her to all those dietitians and all those for her learning how to eat correctly. So I feel for these people because it is got some learning curve to it, figuring out how to manage. We will walk through it. Again, my niche is the nutrition side, the eating side of it. And we will talk a little bit about exercise in this class and how that plays a role as well, but really focusing on that food. It's not a matter of what can and can we eat, but how much can we eat? And how can I make sure that I love chocolate? How do I still have that in my diet? How do I make sure I keep that in there?
Yeah, moderation,
yes,
right?
Yep. And a kind of a variety. What are foods we need to eat more of? What can we eat a little bit less of? But still be happy with what we're eating. So again, there's no one diet that fits all, no matter if it's a diabetes diet or just a general person eating.
The U of I Extension giving a diabetes class for food education to make sure that, because again, that can be super overwhelming as far as you've just been diagnosed and you don't know what you can eat, what you can't eat. And Lisa Peterson holding a class will be holding a class. What day is that again?
So this will be on August 14th at 10:30 in Pana Community Hospital. To sign up, you actually call Live Well Fitness, which is the wellness center over there. And that's 217-562-6231.
A great class that's available to help those who may need that extra help. All right, so we've got the diabetes class that's coming up.
Yeah.
What is another thing that you guys have coming up?
Yes. So beyond diabetes, which is one of our big focuses right now, is we are in canning season right now. So we have a lot of people with amazing gardens coming in. I was just lucky enough I taught a class, I think it was last week, with co-sponsored by the Master Gardeners here. And we went out to our community garden here at Davis Memorial, and we got to see the beautiful community garden we have. But a lot of people, when they get all this food in coming from these gardens, they don't know what to do with it. Yep. So this class that I'm doing, it's actually the next day, so it's August 15th, will be on tomato preservation. So talking a little bit about how do we can tomatoes? When we run out of freezer space, how do we go about this process? This is somebody who, again, very new to canning, or you've been doing it for 20 years and just need a refresher. That's what we're here for Extension, to help answer those questions.
All right. Yeah. Great stuff going on. And I have a small little blackberry
garden, like bush
garden. It's this is pretty. It started off as something completely different and kind of turned into it because the plants took over. And long story short, I have blackberries like crazy. But it's really neat. But again, it can be overwhelming. I had cantaloupe a few years ago, and I was amazed. First of all, at how far the vines grew, but also how many plants actually came from it. And that can be overwhelming if you get a whole lot of them. Giving them to your neighbors as far as how many you have, but fantastic stuff. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have much more with Lisa Peterson, talk to her about some of the other great stuff that's going on with the U of I Extension and the hard work that they are doing out there to make sure that you are taking care of yourself and giving you the best choices and the best options available. You're listening to WTIM, your information station. Back in a moment.
WTIM.
$47.5 down 4.5. August bean meal $3.54.50, that's up 40 cents. August bean oil $43.04 down 26 cents. Livestock market, August feeders $255.77 down to $1.47. August live cattle $186.15 down 97 cents. August lean hogs $92.47 up 20 cents. Energy market, September crude oil $77.94 up 3 cents. Jim Taylor on the RFD Radio Network.
This is Jordan Rupert with People's Bank and Trust, where customers have one business banker who understands their business and provides the right financial service to achieve their financial goals. Your business banker is your single source for all your financial needs, from cash management to lines of credit, from mortgages to equipment loans, and everything in between. Call me at 888-PBT-1954. Bank with People's Bank and Trust, so you can spend your time running your business, not explaining it. At People's Bank and Trust, we put people first. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The Christian County Economic Development Corporation is a not-for-profit organization whose mission is to promote the creation and retention of jobs and to increase the economic tax base through the development, establishment, and expansion of commerce and industry in the Christian County area. I'm Matt Hart, CCEDC's new Executive Director. I'm here to work with existing county employers as well as develop relationships towards creating new jobs in our county. Feel free to reach out to me, Matt Hart, by clicking our icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
This is Dwayne Wheeler, the police chief of the city of Taylorville. As a law enforcement officer, I've seen the impact that depression and suicide have on many people. Many times, those contemplating suicide endure considerable suffering and distress, but there is help. If you feel depressed or lonely, there are many resources to help you. You can call a trusted relative, friend, or minister, or call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That is 1-800-273-TALK. All of us are here to help you. Thank you.
Pastor Brian Moore here from Locust Grove Church near Assumption. We are alive and so worth the drive. Find directions to our church and watch our video podcast by clicking our icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Lauren Asali here, owner of Schaefer Perfetti and Asali Funeral Home, Taylorville's only locally owned and operated funeral home. We honor lives and celebrate memories. Find out all about our services we provide by clicking on our icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
WTIM.
You're listening to the WTIM Morning Show with me, Leroy Klemola, filling in for Tim Zalback, who has decided to go find himself in the wilds of Chicago. No, I'm just kidding. He's just on vacation. But joining me right now is Lisa Peterson from the University of Illinois Extension Office. And our apologies if you're listening or watching. Well, you're not watching. You're listening to us on our video stream on social media, as we're having some issues with our video stream today. But our special thanks to People's Bank and Trust, where we put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better at Landmark. And Lisa joining us today. And Lisa, we talked a little bit earlier about a diabetes class that's coming up. We'll touch on that briefly at the very, very end of our segment. But one thing that we're talking about is canning. And of course, one of the big things that I know people can is pickles, but also tomatoes. Talk a little bit about tomato canning.
Yeah, so we're getting in that season. Usually it's around August, September is when all those tomatoes start popping in. So I'll be doing a class here at the Christian County Extension Office in Taylorville on next, I believe it's August 15th. So yep, August 15th, and that'll be at 5:30. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about everything with canning, freezing, drying tomatoes. That includes salsa. But we'll go through really the basics. We'll talk about why you have to add an acid. That always comes up when we talk about canning tomatoes, because tomatoes are one of those what we call borderline fruit. It's their pH falls right in that area where no matter what, we want you to add some type of acid. So that reduces that risk of botulism, which we're trying to reduce no matter what. But you have to add acid, whether you're doing water bath canning or boil or pressure canning. They're like, well, I'm getting it to the right temperature and I'm having it for the right time. That's important. But you have to add acid to help reduce that risk of botulism in there. So what you do is per pint, we tell you to either add a tablespoon of bottled is important, bottled lemon juice, or 1/4 of a teaspoon of citric acid. You could also add 2 tablespoons of vinegar per pint, but a lot of people don't like that because it gives kind of an unwanted flavor, but that's also an option. One thing we are watching out for, which happened last year, is when we talk about acidifying. Your vinegar you buy has to be 5% acidity. And be careful when you buy vinegar, because there are some on the market that are 3% and 6% and 7%. It has to be 5% acidity, because that's what every research-based recipe is using. So be cautious when you're buying your vinegar. That is a safety issue.
You wouldn't, I promise you, I would have never thought about pH levels.
Yes.
Well, yep. I tell you, I've been my family's been gone for a couple of weeks, and I've been taking care of my kids' fish.
Oh, yep.
All right.
Yep.
And one of the things that popped up was pH levels in the water. And I went, what?
Yeah.
But that's not just there. The
Yep.
pH levels for canning as well. And I
Yes.
never would have
Yep.
dreamed about checking pH levels for doing something like that. But obviously, that's a very. I know my sister cans salsa.
Yep.
But that's a very important step that could easily be missed. And you talked a little bit about botulism being a problem if you don't do it correctly.
Yeah, and that's one thing because it is tomatoes and there's so many different varieties. That's where we tell you it doesn't matter the variety. You can do green tomatoes. That's absolutely fine. Just follow the same recipe as you would the other ones. But yeah, one thing to keep in mind is that pH, you have to add acid. Like I said, lemon juice, citric acid, or vinegar. You can always call our office. I'm always happy to take questions about that. If they're like, well, how much do I add? I can tell you or give you a recipe that's going to tell you. But yeah, there's some things you can change. We talked about salsa because we are getting into salsa season.
Yes.
I'm doing quite a few classes on canning salsa this season. We're actually doing one tomorrow. So if you have little ones out there who would love to come can some salsa, we do still have some openings. We're doing it at 10 o'clock at the extension office. All you have to do is call today and we'll get you registered. Don't worry. You can do it online too. But yeah, call us up and we'll get them in and it'll be a 2-hour class. So they'll be doing they're going to cut up some tomatoes and some veggies and can some salsa.
We like canning salsa because we just like saying the word salsa.
Yeah.
And really what this all boils down to is we just like saying the word salsa.
Yep. And there's, again, when you can salsa, people think, can I do whatever I want? And unfortunately, there's some things you can change. There's some things you can't. So for example, you can change the type of pepper. You can change the type of onion. You can't change the amount because of that pH. If you mess with the amounts in there, it's going to change the pH and that could put you at risk for getting somebody sick. So there's
safety. It's a safety concern.
Yes. Yep. So there's certain things and we have some great recipes that give you a lot of freedom, but the amount of food in each one does not change.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Lisa Peterson joining us to talk to us a little bit about some of the great stuff that's going on with the U of I extension and canning, which I remember as a kid, my parents would can pickles and stay up super late at night trying to get that all taken care of and then putting them together. And cucumbers, so many cucumbers, but yes, very important to make sure that you are following these recipes exactly the way that they're written so that you can keep people safe.
Yep. And this class will be the tomato preservation class I'm talking about. Again, is August 15th, and it's at 5:30 p.m. We do charge a small fee of $10 just to cover the cost of supplies. But yeah, anyone is welcome to come. We'll kind of walk you through the steps. You'll get actually practice canning, which is nice. So again, if you're completely new to it, it's a good experience. Also, if you have a pressure canner lid that has a dial gauge on it, so it has numbers on it, bring it into the office. We suggest you test those once a year. I do it for free. It takes me less than 5 minutes. I tell people because I work in 4 counties, if I'm not there, put your name and number on the top of that lid and I will get there within a week and get it back to you. So
very cool. Yeah. Very cool. A service provided by the U of I extension by Lisa Pearson to make sure that those are working correctly and that you can do your job effectively as far as canning goes, because you don't want those numbers to be you don't want those numbers to be wrong. All right, Lisa, we got about a minute left. We have about a minute left. So once again, go over that diabetes class one more time.
Yeah, so our Cooking with Diabetes, focused on meal planning here, is going to be August 14th at Pana Community Hospital in the lower level in the community meeting room at 10:30, and we'll go till about noon. I say noon. Typically, we're done before then, but it's and you'll get to do some hands-on recipes, hopefully get some answers about how to meal plan with diabetes. And again, we usually get a great group of people. And then on August 15th, the next day, we're going to do tomato preservation, mastering canning, freezing, and drying of tomatoes at 5:30 to 8 o'clock at the Christian County Extension Office here in Taylorville.
Where can people go to get more information?
Yeah, so you can either go to our website, the extension website, or you can always call Live Well Fitness in Pana about the diabetes class, because that's who you're going to sign up through. The diabetes class is no charge. We offer it up for at no cost. And again, we usually get a great group of people, can help kind of get together and do some talking about diabetes and hopefully help problem solve too.
Sounds good. All right, Lisa Pearson joining us today. Lisa, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yes, thank you.
All right, I want to thank our sponsors today, People's Bank and Trust. We put people first. And Landmark of Taylorville. You always do better at Landmark. You've been listening to WTIM, your information station. Our guest today has been Lisa Peterson from the University of Illinois Extension, right here on WTIM.
Your information station, WTIM.
WTIM Assumption Taylorville, 96.1 W241 CF Taylorville, 107.5 W298 CD Shelbyville, 107.9 W300 EH Payne and Nokomis.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomas.